The massive starship Celestial Horizon hummed with nervous energy as Captain J. Park stood motionless, his hands clasped behind his back. Holographic displays flickered around him, showing the intricate dance of alien vessels against the pitch-black canvas of space. Outside the view screen, 3 massive alien motherships loomed like metallic mountains, their obsidian hulls reflecting pinpricks of distant starlight. Jay's crew moved with practiced precision. Lieutenant Kim monitored communication channels, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that translated complex alien languages in milliseconds. Navigation specialist Choi watched proximity sensors, ready to execute emergency maneuvers at a moment's notice. The alien communication came suddenly, a burst of electromagnetic pulses that momentarily disrupted ship systems. Strange, geometric symbols cascaded across screens, looking like liquid metal dancing between digital dimensions. Jay recognized it as a formal first contact protocol, something the aliens called the Stellar Engagement Sequence. "Translation incoming," Lieutenant Kim announced, her voice steady despite the tension. The alien transmission materialized, not as words, but as a complex holographic representation. Strange, crystalline creatures materialized, beings that looked part organic, part mechanical. Their bodies shifted like living mercury, with appendages that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Humans of Earth vessel," the transmission began, "you have entered restricted galactic territory. Prepare for immediate assessment and potential territorial compensation." Jay knew what that meant. Territorial compensation was a euphemism for potential slavery, resource extraction, or complete cultural subjugation. Humanity had heard rumors about such encounters from deep space exploration logs. The ship's quantum AI, nicknamed Guardian, began running rapid threat assessments. Weapon systems charged silently, energy shields optimized for potential combat scenarios. Every system was preparing for what might become humanity's most critical first contact moment. Jay noticed something unusual. The alien transmission carried multiple layers of communication, visual, electromagnetic, and something else entirely. Subtle mathematical sequences hidden within the communication suggested a complex legal framework waiting to be decoded. His training at the Interstellar Diplomatic Academy had prepared him for moments like these. Years of studying xenolinguistics, galactic legal systems, and cultural negotiation strategies now converged in this single moment. The alien vessels began moving, creating intricate geometric patterns around the celestial horizon. It wasn't just a display of technological superiority, it was a complex communication method, a dance of potential conflict and diplomatic engagement. Suddenly, a smaller craft detached from the main mothership, sleek and impossible to track. With standard sensors, it approached with precision that suggested both advanced technology and living intelligence. Its hull seemed to breathe and shift, absorbing and reflecting light in impossible ways. "Incoming independent vessel," Lieutenant Kim reported. "Signature doesn't match any known galactic database." Jay watched as the craft matched their velocity perfectly. No weapons were visible, but the potential for conflict hummed in the air, like static electricity. The ship's internal temperature dropped several degrees. Guardian's voice came through internal comms. "Quantum entanglement detected. Recommend full diplomatic protocol activation." Jay's mind raced. This wasn't a standard encounter. Something fundamental was about to change. Not just for him or his crew, but potentially for entire human civilization. His hand unconsciously touched the diplomatic seal embedded in his uniform, a quantum-encrypted device containing humanity's most critical legal and cultural documents. Something told him it would play a crucial role in what was about to unfold. The alien craft stopped exactly 500 meters from their vessel. No weapons charged, no aggressive movements, just silent, calculated presence. "Prepare full communication." "Array," Jay commanded, "and activate secondary diplomatic protocols." Little did Jay know that this encounter would set in motion a series of events that would forever change human history. A journey of unexpected alliances, complex legal battles, and a diplomatic confrontation that would challenge everything. Humanity understood about first contact. The dance was about to begin. End of Part 1. The diplomatic chamber gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence, its walls shifting between translucent blues and silvery metallic tones. Jay found himself surrounded by 4 remarkable alien women, each representing a different faction of their complex interstellar society. Seung, the eldest, stood with calculated precision. Her eyes held the wisdom of centuries, her posture suggesting she had negotiated hundreds of planetary treaties. Her skin shimmered with intricate biomechanical implants that seemed to pulse with hidden information. Yi, the second wife, carried herself like a military strategist. Her combat-trained muscles moved beneath a sophisticated nano-fabric uniform that could transform into defensive armor within milliseconds. She watched Jay with a mixture of curiosity and strategic assessment. Ji-un represented the economic powerhouse of their civilization. Her fingers constantly moved, holographic economic models dancing around her hands. Complex financial algorithms flickered in her peripheral vision, analyzing every potential diplomatic scenario. Min, the youngest, seemed the most unpredictable. Her eyes burned with a rebellious energy, suggesting she was more interested in challenging the existing system than maintaining it. She wore a quantum-adaptive jacket that changed colors based on her emotional state. The marriage ceremony was nothing like human traditions. It was a complex legal ritual, more of a diplomatic contract than a romantic union. Alien officials moved around them, recording every gesture, every subtle interaction with sophisticated quantum recording devices. By the stellar concordance, "Protocol," the chief officiator announced, his voice resonating through multiple sonic frequencies. "You are now legally bound in a multi-dimensional partnership representing interspecies diplomatic engagement." Jay realized quickly this wasn't just a marriage, it was a sophisticated trap. The alien legal system had created a mechanism that technically made him a subordinate, while simultaneously giving him access to their most critical societal information. Seung was the first to approach him privately. "You understand this is more than a ceremonial binding," she whispered, her translation device converting her complex language into perfect English. "This is a test for both of us." The chamber itself was a marvel of technological sophistication. Holographic representations of galactic star systems danced around them. Quantum communication nodes allowed instantaneous information transfer. Every wall, every surface was alive with data, with potential, with unspoken strategies. Heishi began explaining the complex legal framework that had forced this unusual arrangement. "Our civilization requires diplomatic marriages as a method of preventing potential conflicts," she said. "You are both a prisoner and a potential liberator in this system." Jay listened carefully. He understood that each of these women had their own agenda, their own hopes of using this unusual diplomatic arrangement to create change within their rigid societal structure. Min suddenly interrupted the formal discussion. "Do you know why we selected you?" she asked, her voice carrying a hint of challenge. "Because human adaptability terrifies our leadership. They believe by controlling you, they can understand and ultimately subjugate your species." The realization hit Jay like a quantum shockwave. This wasn't just a diplomatic arrangement, it was a complex test, a probing mechanism designed to understand human potential. Quantum encrypted data streams began flowing around them, capturing every microscopic interaction. Ji-un's economic models started calculating potential outcomes, potential diplomatic scenarios that could emerge from this unusual partnership. "Welcome to the most complicated marriage in galactic history," Seung said with a subtle smile, "where your survival depends on understanding our system better than we do." Jay realized he was now part of something much larger than a simple diplomatic mission. He was a potential key to understanding and potentially transforming an entire civilization's approach to interstellar relationships. The chamber's ambient temperature shifted subtly, reflecting the complex emotional and strategic dynamics unfolding between these 5 individuals from completely different worlds. Outside, massive starships continued their silent vigil, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented diplomatic experiment. End of Part 2. The alien complex sprawled like a living organism, its architecture breathing and shifting with technological pulses. Jay moved through corridors that seemed to anticipate his movements, quantum-responsive surfaces changing color and texture with each step. Sheng began his cultural education first. In a chamber filled with holographic historical projections, she unveiled the intricate political landscape of their civilization. Massive star systems flickered around them, each representing a complex network of planetary relationships, economic dependencies, and historical conflicts. Our society doesn't just record history, she explained. We experience it simultaneously across multiple dimensional layers. Quantum data streams surrounded Jay, translating complex alien concepts into comprehensible human understanding. He realized quickly that their communication was multi-layered. Words were just the surface. Emotional frequencies, mathematical patterns, and spatial relationships carried deeper meanings. Hai's military training sessions were nothing like Earth's traditional combat preparation. They happened in immersive holographic environments where strategy evolved in real time. Robotic training units transformed constantly, presenting unpredictable combat scenarios that tested mental flexibility more than physical strength. Humans fascinate our military strategists, Hai revealed during one training session. Holographic battlefield simulations shifted around them, entire planetary ecosystems becoming battlegrounds. Your species adapts faster than any known civilization in galactic records. Ji-un introduced him to their economic systems, a breathtaking network where financial transactions happened through quantum entanglement. Currency wasn't just monetary, it was a complex exchange of information, potential, and collective social credit. Massive data nodes pulsed around them, showing how a single economic decision could ripple across entire star systems. Jay watched financial algorithms dance, creating and destroying economic possibilities in milliseconds. Min's contribution was perhaps the most unexpected. She showed him the underground cultural resistance movements, young aliens challenging their civilization's rigid hierarchical structures. Secret communication networks, artistic rebellion, subtle cultural subversions that challenged their entire societal framework. "We're not as unified as our leadership wants everyone to believe," she whispered during a covert data transfer. Holographic. Images of protest movements flickered around them. Beautiful, dangerous, revolutionary. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had encountered. Communication happened through quantum resonance. Thoughts could be shared, memories could be experienced, complex emotional landscapes could be transmitted faster than light. Jay's training at the Interstellar Diplomatic Academy had prepared him for complex negotiations, but nothing could have readied him for this level of cultural immersion. He was simultaneously a student, a diplomat, and a potential catalyst for massive societal transformation. Each of his 4 wives represented a different approach to potential change. Seung was the strategic architect, Hai the military innovator, Jian the economic reimaginer, and Min the cultural revolutionary. They didn't just teach him about their civilization, they were testing him, probing his potential, understanding how a human might navigate their complex societal structures. Quantum AI systems constantly analyze their interactions. Every conversation, every training session, every shared moment was a complex data point in understanding potential interspecies cooperation. The alien complex itself seemed alive. Corridors restructured themselves based on occupants' emotional states. Technology wasn't just a tool. It was a living, breathing entity that responded to consciousness itself. Jay began to understand that this wasn't just a diplomatic mission. This was a fundamental exploration of what intelligent life could become when different civilizations truly attempted to understand each other. Robotic assistants moved silently, their movements a perfect blend of mechanical precision and organic fluidity. They weren't just machines, they were complex learning entities that evolved with each interaction. As solar cycles passed, Jay realized he was no longer just an observer. He was becoming part of something much larger, a potential bridge between two entirely different civilizations, each with its own complex understanding of existence. The real infiltration wasn't just cultural, it was about breaking down fundamental barriers of understanding, creating a new framework of interstellar communication that went beyond traditional diplomatic approaches. End of Part 3. The legal chamber resembled a living crystal palace, with walls that pulsed with holographic legal codes and quantum-encrypted statutes. Jay stood at the center, surrounded by alien judicial representatives whose bodies seemed to shimmer between solid and energy states. Statute 7092.3 of the Galactic Concordance clearly states, began the Chief Judicial Arbiter, his voice a cascade of mathematical frequencies, that diplomatic unions require absolute compliance with established interstellar protocols. Seung had prepared him meticulously. Hidden within her earlier lessons were intricate legal strategies, subtle weaknesses in their own complex legal system. Each piece of information was a potential weapon, carefully crafted to dismantle their bureaucratic structure. The chamber itself was a marvel of technological jurisprudence. Holographic documents danced around them, living, breathing legal entities that could reshape themselves based on argumentative nuance. Quantum computers calculated potential legal outcomes in milliseconds, creating a dynamic battlefield of legislation. Jay's first move was unexpected. Instead of defending, he attacked. Using the very legal codes designed to restrict him, he began exposing centuries of hidden bureaucratic corruption. Each statement was a precise legal thrust, backed by data collected through his 4 wives. Insider knowledge. HI had provided military administrative records showing systematic resource misappropriation. Ji-Yoon's economic models revealed complex financial manipulations that stretched across multiple star systems. Min's underground network supplied critical evidence of systematic cultural suppression. The judicial representatives watched in growing alarm. Their perfect legal system, supposedly impenetrable, was being dismantled piece by a human who was technically their subordinate. Robotic legal assistants moved around the chamber, their quantum processors struggling to process the unprecedented legal strategy. Some began to malfunction, their circuits overloaded by the complexity of Jay's arguments. "Your Honor," Jay announced, using a formal alien legal term that carried weight across their entire civilization, "I submit that the very laws binding me are fundamentally compromised by internal systematic corruption." Each word was a calculated weapon. The holographic legal codes around him began to shift, revealing hidden layers of complexity. Ancient statutes long forgotten began to resurface, creating legal precedents that challenged the current power structure. The judicial chamber itself seemed to hold its breath. Technology, law, and living consciousness merged into a single moment of potential transformation. Seung watched from the sidelines, a subtle smile playing on her lips. She had prepared him not just to survive, but to fundamentally challenge their entire legal framework. Quantum communication nodes captured every microscopic detail of the proceedings. This wasn't just a legal battle, it was a potential turning point in interstellar diplomatic relations. Holographic representations of legal experts from thousands of star systems materialized, watching the unprecedented confrontation. Some supported Jay's arguments, others looked on in horror as their complex legal system was systematically deconstructed. Ji-Eun's economic models projected potential outcomes. Each legal challenge Jay presented created massive ripple effects across their civilization's economic and political structures. Robotic judicial assistants began to malfunction more frequently. Their programming, designed to support the existing system, couldn't process the level of legal innovation Jay presented. "By the collective statutes of the Galactic Concordance," Jay continued, his voice calm and precise, "I challenge the fundamental legitimacy of the current administrative framework." The chamber's temperature dropped. Holographic legal codes began to destabilize, revealing layers of hidden information that had been carefully concealed for centuries. Hai's military training had prepared him for this moment, not as a physical battle, but as a complex strategic confrontation where words were more powerful than weapons. Min's underground resistance network watched the proceedings, broadcasting the legal battle across hidden communication channels. This was more than a personal victory. It was a potential revolution. As the proceedings continued, it became clear that Jay was doing more than defending himself. He was systematically exposing and challenging an entire civilization's approach to governance, diplomacy, and interstellar relations. The legal battlefield had transformed into something unprecedented, a moment of potential systemic transformation. End of Part 4. The final confrontation erupted like a quantum storm, transforming the entire galactic political landscape in a single, breathtaking moment. Massive starships hung motionless in space, their quantum engines waiting, watching the unfolding drama. Jay stood at the center of the Central Galactic Council chamber, a massive spherical structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Around him, his 4 wives formed a protective formation, each representing a critical aspect of their civilization's power structure. Holographic projections of thousands of planetary representatives flickered around them. Some showed support, others displayed pure terror. The human who was supposed to be a diplomatic prisoner had become something entirely unexpected, a catalyst for fundamental systemic change. "The current leadership has failed," Jay declared, his voice resonating through quantum communication channels, not just politically, but fundamentally in their understanding of cooperative civilization. Seung's strategic calculations had prepared this moment perfectly. Hidden within the complex legal arguments were fundamental challenges to their entire governance model. Each word was a precision weapon, dismantling centuries of rigid bureaucratic control. Massive data streams erupted around the chamber. Robotic judicial systems began to malfunction, unable to process the level of legal and philosophical innovation Jay presented. Quantum communication nodes went into overdrive, transmitting the confrontation across multiple star systems. Chai's military intelligence had provided critical internal information. Decades of suppressed rebellion, hidden cultural resistance, and systematic administrative corruption came flooding into public consciousness. The perfect facade of their civilization began to crack. Ji-Eun's economic models showed the true cost of their current system: massive resource misallocation, systematic cultural suppression, and potential civilization-wide collapse. Her holographic projections revealed economic networks that had been deliberately hidden from public view. Min's underground resistance network activated simultaneously. Communication channels that had been suppressed for generations suddenly blazed with unprecedented freedom. Cultural information, long-hidden historical records, and systemic challenges flooded every communication network. The alien leadership's representative tried to interrupt, but the quantum communication systems had already shifted. Jay had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. "We are not requesting change," he stated clearly. "We are implementing it." Robotic systems around the chamber began to transform. Some sided with Jay, recognizing the fundamental logic of his arguments. Others attempted to resist, but their programming couldn't withstand the level of systemic challenge presented. Starships outside began to realign. Entire planetary defense systems recalibrated. What had started as a simple diplomatic mission had become a civilization-wide transformation. Seung moved closer to Jay, her body language suggesting both strategic support and personal respect. "You've done more than we thought possible," she whispered, quantum communication ensuring only he could hear. Holographic representations of planetary leaders showed a mix of emotions: fear, excitement, total confusion. The human had used their own complex legal and social systems to challenge their entire approach to governance. Ji-Eun's economic projections showed something unprecedented: a potential path to more equitable resource distribution. Entire economic models were being rewritten in real time, challenging centuries of established control mechanisms. IE's military networks began to decentralize. The rigid hierarchical structures that had defined their civilization's approach to conflict were systematically being dismantled. Min's cultural resistance movement exploded into mainstream consciousness. Generations of suppressed artistic, philosophical, and social innovations suddenly found a global platform. The chamber itself seemed to breathe. Technology, consciousness, and potential merged into a single transformative moment. Humanity offers not conquest, Jay announced, but cooperation, not domination, but understanding. Quantum communication nodes captured every microscopic detail. This was more than a diplomatic victory. This was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar civilization. The four wives, once forced into a diplomatic arrangement, now stood as architects of a new potential future. Their individual strengths had combined into something far more powerful than their civilization had ever imagined possible. Outside, starships continued their silent vigil, but everything had changed. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not through military might, but through an unprecedented display of diplomatic innovation. End of Part 5.